Our buddy Mark Kaboly spoke about Mike Tomlin yesterday, and we were asked about the situation with Mike Tomlin. And without knowing what the report was, without diving into or really understanding what we were being asked, we shut it down and said that the Pittsburgh Steelers, there's no chance Mike Tomlin has this train of thought or that Mike Tomlin feels this way about how an offense should operate and how the Pittsburgh Steelers offense should go about avoiding turnovers. Well, looks like we may have been wrong. Mark Kaboly reported that Mike Tomlin doesn't like to use the middle of the field, that is his preference, and that he thinks that that's where turnovers happen, that's where mistakes occur, and the Pittsburgh Steelers have the biggest risk. He is the one that shuts down the Steelers and their offense, and maybe Russell Wilson utilizing Pat Freiermuth and Calvin Austin, and eventually he's going to be Roman Wilson, and really inside the hashes at all. My first thought was nonsense. Okay. That was obviously my first thought. I think, for one, we play the where you get an information game all the time. And Russell Wilson seems to be a guy that some people are super into. I'm not calling out Kaboly here. Kaboly's as good as it gets. But Russell Wilson's a guy that some people are super into. Some people do not fault for the struggles. Russell Wilson does not use the middle of the field. Okay. Russell Wilson's team is making some information known, and maybe that's where it's come. I'm just guessing. Just being skeptical. My other what was, if this is true, it is, in my opinion, the last straw of Mike Tomlin is an incompetent head coach. And I don't want to say Mike Tomlin is an incompetent head coach. I want Mike Tomlin to go out and win Super Bowls. I want the Pittsburgh Steelers to succeed under Mike Tomlin. And I don't want their head coach to make me look bad, because for a long time I defended Mike Tomlin, saying things like Mike Tomlin is a Super Bowl winning coach. Mike Tomlin is their best option. Mike Tomlin is the guy that they should have leading this football team. But if you are telling your offense not to use the middle of the field because you are afraid of turnovers, Mike Tomlin has not just surpassed the line of living in your fears, but has gone so far over it that he no longer, without being paranoid about losses and about struggle and about mistakes, is competent enough to lead a football team. That is how I view this. That if this is true, and that Mike Tomlin really doesn't want to use the middle of the field, and he makes that known to his offense and to his play caller and to everybody else, which could be the case, because you look at history, and once Ben left, that's what happened. And you have young quarterbacks, not Ben Roethlisberger back there at quarterback, and you have to look at it and say, maybe Mike is a little skeptical these guys could get it done, and therefore he's protecting his offense and his football team. But I'll tell you, if it's true, Kenny Pickett is lucky to get out of here. He was lucky to leave. Justin Fields should not come back. Russell Wilson, fine, because whatever, at this point, who cares? You don't use the middle of the field anyways. And Mike Tomlin, I mean, everything he says is hypocrisy at this point. I live for the discomfort. Apparently you don't. We don't live in our fears, except for this case, where that is a massive and super alarming fear to have and to utilize against your football team. I mean, to me, there have been a lot of things that have been said about Mike Tomlin. This tops the list because it is the hierarchy. This is the biggest sign of Mike doesn't have it, and he's way too paranoid about a losing season to ever get it back. That's how I feel. Also, can you understand and hear me, or am I just as
The
staticky?
audio the audio is good. The audio is good. The video is like watching stop motion a little bit, but hopefully
Yeah,
it
it's
corrects
terrible.
itself here in a little bit. But I
You
mean,
gotta
if
hope so, dude. Shout out StreamYard.
if this is true, and again, I will say and highlight and underline and underscore and all of the above the word if. If
Yeah.
this is true, it's simply cutting off your nose to spite your face. I understand that he's not wrong. Turnovers do happen in the middle of the field, but if you're cutting that part out for your entire offense, then you're handcuffing your offense, which already needs as many things to go right for it as humanly possible because you don't have a lot of talent in the wide receiver room except for George Pickens. You don't have an established offensive line. And last year, you had two quarterbacks who, quite frankly, needed to resurrect their career. So you needed everything to go right already. Why would you cut out a large portion of the field, and a portion of which, if you're good in that area, is going to lead to you having a very good offense? I mean, look no further
Mhm.
than their best game offensively last year. It was against Cincinnati. And why did they have over 500 yards of total all purpose offense? Why did Pat Fryermuth have one of the best games of his career? Because they utilized the middle of the field. I don't think any head coach would be that cut and dry and that black and white and say, turnovers happen in the middle. We're not utilizing the middle. I don't think that. I think it might be to a degree. I could see that being a possibility, but I don't think it's that black and white. But if it is even to a degree the mindset in that room, then there needs to be a severe attitude adjustment because the middle of the field, while it's dangerous, it's also where you can make a lot of bread when it comes to the offensive side of the football. And the Steelers, as we mentioned, they need everything to go right. You cannot cut out a large portion of the offense by just eliminating the middle of the field.
I agree. I agree. And I know that you can't see me shaking my head as well as I am shaking my head, but I
Yeah.
agree. You are killing, killing all development. Why? There are questions that come with this. Why did you pay Pat Fryermuth if this is the case? Why did you do that? At what point does a quarterback, because if Russell Wilson wasn't it, if Russell Wilson wasn't good enough, at what point is a quarterback good enough for you to say, let's change our philosophy and open up the middle of the field and be okay about the middle of the field? If that's really what you think. I just think that the alarms sound once you hear these things. Again, I'm with you on that where it's like maybe it's not so cut and dry. Maybe it's not as black and white as it seems, and maybe there are different wording or different ways to go about it. Maybe the game of telephone kind of messed up the wording or the sternness of the message as it went through. All those things could be true. All those things could be true. But if it's remotely close, because that's the thing, if there is any conversation about we should not use the middle of the field, that's too much conversation. It's too much conversation. You can't do those things. You can't remove a piece of your offense no matter how risky it is. You could tell a quarterback, don't turn the ball over, but if your defense isn't holding a team to 20 points, if your offense isn't scoring enough points to win, you cannot sit there and continue to preach you can't use the middle of the field. It can't happen because at that point it's I mean it's neglect. It's malpractice on what you're trying to teach and develop with your football team. It also means you're never going to develop a quarterback ever, which Mike Tomlin's never done, but it means you're never going to do it. And it means that the more and more this becomes apparent, which, he's had excuses. It was Matt Canada. Okay. Then it was Kenny Pickett. Then it was Russell Wilson. You get Justin Fields in here and he does the same thing. At that point, everybody else around the league is looking at it and just saying, that's just the Steelers. That's just what they do. It's just another this is the offseason of how big of a giant red flag can the Pittsburgh Steelers and Mike Tomlin become. That is what this offseason is geared towards. That's what will happen over the next coming months. And it's really just a matter of can it be proven wrong come August? Because every giant red flag is going to become available for public knowledge. Every single one of them. This is the newest one. So come August, the Steelers better be used in the middle of the field. Why? Because if not, okay, check. That's one of them on the list. That is true. That holds strong. If Russell Wilson's back and it's Mike Tomlin's decision, if Najee Harris returns and it's Mike Tomlin's decision, he makes both of those things known. Boom. Check. These are Mike Tomlin red flags that he is very true. If the Steelers make 0 adjustments on defense, check. There's red flag. The next one. It's the summer of how big of a concern can the Steelers be by August, and they're going to have to prove us wrong on a number of fronts once they go to training camp. That's what's going to happen. So will it? Who knows? But you got to hope that it is.